Have you ever GM'd or played in a diceless RPG? If so, how did you find it?
So I'm gonna have to take a little bit of a spin on this question, because I think what you mean when you say diceless RPGs is RPGs without a randomizer of some kind. Because there are role-playing games that use like a deck of cards or beads in a bag, as I did for one of my games, Irrepressible. Or there might be games that work with a Jenga tower. I think we all know which one that is. Or, there's tarot cards. There can be all manner of different randomizers. The tarot cards one is it's a bit of an odd one, because if you look at something like Everway, it does use cards, but it leaves it down to interpretation of the cards. So there's still some sort of semi-random element, depending how you want to interpret those cards when you play. But I'm going to assume that you mean by diceless, no randomizers. Which doesn't leave us with that many role-playing games. There is Amber and its derivatives. That is probably the main one people think of, and I can't think of a lot of others. There was that obscure Marvel RPG that used beads, not as randomizers, but as signifiers of how much effort you were putting in and how worn down your character got over time. That's really it as far as my experience with diceless RPGs goes. I would say I can't even think of many others other than pure story games that use some sort of mechanic rather than randomization to determine whether you succeed or fail. Typically, skill levels, stat levels, and how much effort you're willing to put in at the time, or how many people help you, or whatever. So that really just leaves Amber as a purely diceless RPG. And in Amber, you kind of bid when you're creating your character to see who is the best at X, Y, or Z. And then when it comes down to conflict, if you meet the difficulty of the conflict with whatever ability you've bid for, then you succeed. And if you don't, then you fail. But you can make arguments for things that make it easier or more difficult. Like if you're the best in the universe at fighting, and your evil twin brother is the second best in the universe at fighting, then he might be able to even the odds by bringing armies from some other world to attack and distract you so that he can get in the death blow, or fighting you in the dark because he has better eyesight than you, or things like that. It kind of turns in play, in my experience, to a bit like one of those weird online questionnaires where you answer questions and it tells you how many toddlers you could take in a fight, that sort of thing. I can't say that I'm particularly a fan of randomizer-free games, even though I'm willing to fudge the dice a bit or bend the rules a bit here and there, or to allow for narrative mechanics. I still think that at the heart of it, you need to have some sort of randomizer to determine success or failure, or degree of success or degree of failure, because that helps create the emergent narrative that you're involved in. And I think that game aspect of role-playing game is important and creates tension and senses of victory and failure that you don't get if things are mostly predetermined. So my experience has not been particularly broad with diceless games or randomizer-less games. and I haven't enjoyed them that much, but I find them interesting. I find their methods of resolution interesting, and their goals of focusing on story over anything else. I find that interesting. I just don't think it can be done well.